Hey everybody, I'm Bob Bakert with Jazz Guitar Today, and we're here with guitarist, composer, arranger, lyricist, writer, educator, and vocalist. And you left out impresario, Joel Harrison. Hey Joel.
Hello.
Before we go any further, I'd like to remind you that we do appreciate if you would subscribe to the magazine. It's free. And like and share and follow. It all makes a big difference in terms of what YouTube does for us, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So please, 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 please support the community. We do appreciate it. Support the channel. That being said, Joel, how are you?
Great. Thanks for having me.
Oh yeah, well thanks for coming on board. What's that behind you? You're in your kitchen.
No, actually, well, I'm playing some gigs up in New England, and I'm at a home with a friend.
Oh, okay, all right. Well, it's a cool look anyway. Um, so we're here today to talk about the Alternative Guitar Camp, which is coming up on August the 19th. And why don't you tell us, you started this, did you actually start the camp in 2010 and you've had one every year, or is this?
No, I started the concert series and workshop series in New York City in 2011, I think it was. And the camp started at about 2016. It started small uh, in this beautiful facility up in the Catskill Mountains, Full Moon Resort, and we built it over the years. And as you know from the roster now, we have this incredible assortment of incredible improvisers for people to learn from and hang out with.
Well, why don't you tell us about that? Tell us who's going to be there. I mean, I already know who's going to be there, but I'd like to hear it from you, and kind of how you decided and how you selected them. And then you may want to mention some of the people you've had in the past, et cetera, et cetera. I mean,
Sure.
I'm trying to give people a feel for
Hmm.
the vintage of this thing, and
Yeah.
and the provenance, if you will, of this event. It's a big frickin' deal. I mean, it's an incredible, and it's a value too, by the way. We'll talk about that in a minute. So tell us about the people that are invited this year to teach, and let's go from there.
Yeah, it's an amazing lineup. This year, we've got Wolfgang Mutzspiel, Kurt Rosenwinkel, John Scofield, Mike and Lenny Stern, Rodney Jones, Gilad Hekselman, Camila Meza, and myself, with Jerome Harris on bass and Harvey Sorgan on drums. And in the past, we've had Julian Lodge, Bill Frisell, Wayne Krantz, Miles Okazaki, Steve Cardenas, Nir Felder, Oz Noy. Um, I know I'm leaving some people out.
Well, of course you are, but my God, I mean, it's just so the list this August the 19th. You've got I'm just going to name a couple from memory. You've got Lenny and Mike Stern, Scott. Excuse me. My brain's not working this morning. I'm sorry. I'm doing my. Let me go back to the list. Kurt Rosenwinkel, um, John Scofield. That's where I was going with that. Nels Klein. Um, Mike Stern. I already mentioned him. Lenny Stern. Gilad Hekselman. And some people that I'm not as familiar with. I'm not familiar with Wolfgang. Obviously I should be. Um, and I could go. There's a few more on the list here, and yourself. And what an amazing, what an amazing group of faculty that you've put together. Uh, I can't even imagine that. Getting those. Tell us about how the recruitment of these people. Are they just that into it, or what's going on? I mean,
Well, I think
that's
there's
a
a couple
guitar
things.
jazz festival anywhere in the world.
Well, I think there's a couple things. One is I'm doing something a little different than most places. Um, I would say this is not exactly a jazz guitar camp, although most of these players self-identify as jazz musicians. we do always have a pretty eclectic group of people so that anybody interested in improvising, whether they're more from a rock and blues perspective, will have something to gain. Um, and we really stress the idea of finding your own voice rather than a lot of jazz pedagogy.
Right.
So it you really never know what's going to happen or what when the concerts occur or these magical one of a kind meetings between uh, two guitarists occur or during the workshop two people from different backgrounds will do a workshop together. And the other thing is that I always say this. I mean, people want to come, the teachers, these great teachers, I think because they see the significance and the singularity of the event. I hope I'm not patting myself on the back too hard here, but
Not at all.
I mean, I think that these folks have a lot of choices in how they can spend their time, and of course, we're paying them enough to make it worth their while, but we're also offering a format that my feedback from these great artists is you're really doing something important that nobody else is doing, and we just love being. And it's a great vibe and a great scene, and it couldn't be a more attractive place to anybody interested in guitar improvisation, I believe.
It's well, it's a definite who's who. I mean, there's all of these guys are, if there's a Hall of Fame, these guys are all Hall of Famers, and in
Yeah,
modern.
but I got to say something about that. It's not about that. A lot of times, the best workshop that somebody may attend will be of somebody they've never heard of.
I
For
could
instance,
agree with
Camila
you.
Meza is an amazing teacher, singer, and a great guitar player, and from Chile.
Hmm.
She's with us this year. I hope I mentioned her. There's so many teachers. Sometimes I love to leave folks out. Um, for instance, she might show folks something that you wouldn't get elsewhere. Nels Klein, for instance, well known, maybe a little bit more well known in the indie rock world, but his class on free improvisation might open up, some minds that wouldn't be opened up otherwise. And then you walk over, and Kurt Rosenwinkel is talking about how to play over a standard. And then Rodney Jones is talking about what it really means to play the blues. I mean, you've got this collection of individuals, and the whole amounts to more than the sum of its parts.
Definition of synergy. Um, well, I mean, Rodney, of course, was on the faculty of Juilliard for all those years, and all these guys are great teachers, and it's interesting that these are there is a lot of star power here, but we certainly realize that there's a ton of really great teachers all over the world that people don't know who they are, but they really form. If you ask any of these players who was their teacher, with the exception of a few people that would say Mick Goodrick, who you follow what I'm saying. I mean, yeah, you can if they're in this faculty, I am sure people are gonna benefit. You talked about improvisation. The the term jazz means so many different things to so many different people. And the other day, I sort of equated it to dinner. We're gonna have dinner. Well, what does that mean? Are we gonna have,
Yeah,
you know,
interesting.
that's kind of how I look at it, and it means
Well,
so many different things to so many different people. Um,
well, that's a kind of an issue for me with the camp because there are so many jazz camps and from what I understand, very good jazz camps and
right.
facilities across the country. When I was growing up, there was almost nothing like that, and this is a little different. Although certainly you'll get some jazz pedagogy. my feeling is um, that the world of guitar improvisation um, includes so many different things. And there's a lot of places where you can actually learn to play standards. I think
Right,
that's out there in the schools and some of the more traditional jazz camps. It's all
right,
over the place. So I don't want to focus on that too much.
right.
What we might loosely term straight ahead jazz playing, as much as I love it, um, we're doing something a little different in that the door is a little wider to the world of effects, the world of combining jazz and rock or funk and rock. We had Isaiah Sharkey one year, for instance, who's actually an amazing jazz player, but more known for his work with John Mayer, etc. With Wolfgang Lutzspiel, who's a master jazz player, though he focused a lot on playing his own music on nylon string guitar. So I celebrate the great diversity of
Right.
the world of guitar. It's the most, it's the instrument that can do more different things. That's the reason we love it. A bassoon generally can only do a couple different things.
Yeah,
Um,
if you're a tuba player, you're screwed.
yeah, you know, um, but we're open to it all, and I
Right.
think that's kind of what makes it special.
Well, I mean, I'm looking right now. I've got a 17-inch arch top right here, a 16-inch arch top over there, a Telly and a Strat and a I-35 Collings, which is like a 335. You know, like all within 5 or 10 feet of me, and they all do very different things, and they elicit different emotion from me. And I approach the music the way I play music differently with each of the instruments. Yet they're all quote unquote guitar. You know, it's six strings strung over, usually somewhere in the, 25 to, 24 to 25 and a half inches. And there's about 151 positions on a typical fingerboard, 161. Um, and yet it's unfair to the music to grab it with those four letters and just say, this is what it is. So, in naming the magazine, we really struggled with it because the term, the word jazz, to so many people is a very constricting thing. So I feel your pain. Um, but we're trying.
I wouldn't I wouldn't call it pain.
I'm
It,
calling it pain.
away.
I'm
Yeah.
calling it pain.
Well, but there's a reason I don't call it the Jazz Guitar Summit, and
Right,
it's not that I'm trying to make a point. It's that as a person, who's dreamt this up, I kind of had to go with my aesthetic, which is incredibly broad.
right,
And my background as a guitarist includes straight ahead playing, but I personally don't consider myself a master player of standards. I can do it, and sometimes really well,
right,
but I live in a much broader based sound world.
right. Well, we appreciate that. I mean, if you look at the people that we interview, it's about 50-50 between what I'm going to call the more standard players and the more, I've done Oz a couple times. I've done Wayne Krantz a few times. Done, Lenny Stern, Mike Stern several times, Scofield several times, all of those guys, Robin Ford. Hell, we've had Eric Johnson on the cover. We've had Steve Vai on the cover. We've had Andy Summers on the cover. So, we've had Steve Howe on the cover. It goes on and on and on. So I am preaching with you. You're preaching to a fellow preacher here. And
Good.
yeah, and so that's why I find this camp to be so unusual, and it's so good to see.
Yeah.
Frankly, it's when I didn't know anything about it, and I don't pretend to know everything there is to know about jazz guitar and all the people in it, and this is just something that I felt I could contribute, if you will, to
Hmm.
this music, and so that's how we got started about 6 years ago,
Yeah.
and but I think what you're doing is tremendous, and I think I mentioned we were talking a little bit earlier that you know it I'd love to be there. I mean, I can't be there, but it's just like wow, what a group of people to even if you just sit and don't even play and you can just sit and observe from that close and maybe just ask questions, which you say, hey Mike, while he's eating his hot dog or whatever, you can say, what were you what are you thinking there? How does that work? Or well, why don't you bring that up in camp, Todd, or whatever it is in small group. And to be that close to these guys and get the vibe and the feel from them is just tremendous because, as you say, a lot of the camps are, and they're great camps, and I love these guys. I mean, I'm close friends with a bunch of them, but they are leaning more towards guys that want to play standards and get that that music under their fingers.
Yeah, I
So
get that.
you have to
That's a
be
beautiful thing.
you don't have to be, of course, but to go in this direction, you probably have come from a slightly different place, or you may have come from a different place. You could come from a different place. Let's just say that you're a straight ahead rock player and aren't interested in even playing standards, but you want to get more of this vocabulary into your playing. What a fantastic place to do it.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. So how many people attend the camp? I mean, what is your where do you cut it off at?
Well, we've had 115 a couple times.
Wow.
Um, some when we started, it was 23,
Yeah.
and we've kind of built it up. And so it varies, but generally these days getting into the triple digits.
Excellent. And tell us a little bit about the format. I see the schedule. So let's say, for example, at 2:30 after lunch, you had this is on day two. You've got Gilad, the master class, and um, so is everybody in one room, or how does it all?
Well, no, we've got three different spaces that we use, and
Okay.
generally there is one class going on at once, but sometimes we double up. So in one room you might have Kurt, myself, and Wolfgang Lutzfield talking about composing on the guitar, and then in another room you might have um, Mike Stern doing a workshop on his own, or let's see, you might have Nels Klein talking about the sound world of effects and free improvisation. And then you've got Camila Meza talking about writing jazz music from a South American perspective. I could go on and on.
Yeah.
For instance, me and Rodney Jones will be interviewing John Scofield this year, rather than having him just do a master class, and then John will play with most of the artists at the camp. I mean, to me, that's probably going to be worth the price of admission to see John with Kurt and with Nels Klein and with Rodney, et cetera. So,
just let this is going to be a hoot. I mean, it's going to be fun. Um, you
well, it
know,
is fun.
you
It's
just
supposed to be fun.
yeah, I know. I mean, we've been very serious about talking about it, but I mean, first of all, you're in a gorgeous place. You're what is it like maybe 25 miles from Woodstock?
Yes.
Up in the Catskills, kind of. The facility, folks, it's online, and the URL, which I happen to have up right now, is alternativeguitarsummitcamp.com, where you can learn everything there is to know. Plus, you can register, to be involved, which is really, really great. Um, but you can get a look at the facility, where you're staying, where people are teaching, food choices, all of that. You can. I saw that you can camp there if you want
Yeah.
to. If you want to bring your sleeping bag, and you can camp out on the grounds. you can glamp, as they say, which is a little bit more, and then you've got full on cabins and all kinds of just whatever level you want to treat yourself to. Over those 3.5 days is available to you, which I think is an incredible thing because I went to one camp that it was in a very high end hotel, and it was difficult to not have to um, pay that expense if you can't afford it.
Well, I think that that's a big difference between other camps and ours is that this is in a gorgeous luxury facility
Oh yeah.
that the natural surrounding, not to mention the incredible care that's taken by the staff to make everyone comfortable is amazing. And then you're all right there. There's nothing else to do and nowhere to go. So when the jam sessions come at night, everybody's up there playing together. You might all of a sudden look over and there's Kurt Rosenwinkel playing piano behind.
Well, yeah, that's what. And the other thing that's important for people to know is that it looks like the whole faculty is going to be there the whole time.
Well, that's not quite true.
Okay.
People do. Scofield's just there for a day.
Okay.
Rodney for 2 days, etc. Some people like Kurt, Gilad, Nels, Wolfgang will be there the whole time.
Okay. I was just looking at it, without putting any real.
Yeah,
Day three. I see that John is going to be there on day three.
yeah. We can't quite afford to keep John for 3.5 days.
I'll be honest with you. I'm surprised you can get him at all. I mean, it's like,
Well, I think part of the reason, and again, I think I said this before
yeah.
without patting myself on the back too hard, is that when he came the first time, it was during the pandemic.
Hmm.
First year, which we canceled like everybody else, but the second year, and he said to us, "This is amazing. I just love this. I love what you're doing."
Right.
And for a guy who's done as much as he's done,
Right.
when you get that kind of feedback from Julian Lodge and Bill Frisell, like this is unique. This is something we want to get behind because we feel it's important. That's a stamp of approval that you can take to your grave.
Oh, absolutely. Well, I'm trying to remember how this came to me. It was either
It was Rodney Jones.
was Rodney. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And and when Rodney said he was coming up, I'm doing this camp. I s- and he started naming the guys that are going to be there. I was floored. I went, what?
Well,
How could?
our problem, which you're helping us with, is letting people know about it because
Yeah.
I get it all the time. I hear people go, "Man, I never knew about this. I would have gone."
Yeah.
So trying to get the word out is important. So we
Well,
appreciate what you're
that
doing.
that's what we're doing. Well, is there anything you want to add to this that you want to add to our conversation?
Well, actually, believe it or not, I also want to mention that we've started a second camp that'll be in the beginning of October, focusing on the legacy of the Telecaster. Now, that's not a jazz camp, but
Hang on a minute. Hang on. Don't go away.
okay.
You wouldn't happen to mean one of these, do you?
Yeah, exactly. So the theory here is that uh, if playing jazz is not where you live and you're more into roots rock, country,
Yeah.
blues, we've also collected together an astonishing array of folks to do that camp, including Bill Frisell, Albert Lee, Brent Mason, Red Volkert, John Harrington, Adam Levy. So that's going to be amazing too.
I think I've interviewed like four of those guys. So yeah,
Yeah. So
huge fan.
just to say, I'm just kind of a booster for the guitar at large.
That's what we do.
Write I write books about the guitar, and I got a new one coming out. I run these camps. I put out my own guitar-based music, et cetera, et cetera. And I think that the real reason is to just build our guitar community, which is what you're doing. So I invite everyone to introduce themselves to me and what I'm doing, and vice versa. Tell me what you're doing.
Yeah, that I think that's tremendous. I absolutely love the vision. I mean, it sounds like we're very kindred spirits in that. I mean,
Yep.
we started this. I've been a guitar player since I was about 9, 10 years old. I'm
Me too.
73, so I play every day. I could count on two hands and the amount of days that I haven't had a guitar in my hand, unless I was in a hospital for some reason or other.
You've only
All
been playing for 64 years?
only, yeah. I've almost got D down.
Right.
I'm, to play that well in the middle of a tune, it, people, just to get everything to ring, and to be able, I go back to the basics
Of
all the
course.
time.
Me too.
When I'm running, when I'm running different, fingerings and all that, I really focus on, articulation and, getting that tone, and it doesn't, the longer you play, the more you realize. And if you open your ears and then you listen to Gilad play and you go, what was that?
Yeah.
After 64 years, probably figure, oh, I've heard it all, I've done it all. And I spent a lot of time listening to people and playing myself. I play 2, 3 hours at least every day.
Hmm.
And I went to school for it, and all that, and went to school as a vocalist too, which I know you sing, so I thought that was really interesting.
Hmm.
Um, but but yeah, I was at when I got out of my career in pro audio, it's a long story what I did in that, but and started with the I put a 2 year stint in with Eastman Instruments, and people have heard this
Okay.
story. And they, of course, started, their guitar work with, building Benedetto basic clones. I mean, they bought the Benedetto book and started building Benedetto style art shop guitars. Long and the short of it is that when I went there to kind of revitalize their program, and that's where I learned what shit shape, guitar was in. Jazz specifically, because I went to jazz school, and 1% of music in the world, is jazz. Like
Right.
1.2%, and guitar is probably a tenth of that if we're lucky.
Yeah.
So I used to tell people, this magazine, we're a big fish in a puddle. It's really really small,
Right.
and it's a four-letter word. So I can't, I won't mention names, but I've told this story in the past too, that some of the biggest names in guitar have said, "Don't call me a jazz guitarist because it'll kill my sales." Uh,
Yeah.
That's true story.
Yeah.
You know who Rick Beato is by any chance?
Of course.
All right. Well, Rick's a friend.
Everybody.
Yeah. Well, 4.3 million people do.
Yeah.
Rick's a friend, and I've known
I
Rick
watch that
since.
stuff all the time.
Yeah, I've known Rick since he hadn't hit a million yet. Because he's from Rochester, New York. I'm originally from Buffalo. And he told me many, many moons ago, he said, and Rick can play anything, and he's a fine musician as well as everything else that he does. But he says, if I put the word jazz in one of my titles, he said it kills it, and I think he like by 75%. If I get 100,000 for without that in the word, if I put jazz in it, it just kills it. And so I said, well, that's like really bad. That's like
Yeah.
because if you think of where jazz came from, it's all it's an American art form, blah 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 blah. And you constantly hear about people going over to Europe to make a living because there's no respect for the music here. And all. I said, this got to change.
Right.
That's got to change. And so, because of my background in marketing, and I just have I am a very equal left and right brain person. I understand this end of it and I understand that end of it. Not many people do. I've come to learn. And so that's why that's how we got it started in this. It was not to pay for the Ferrari that's in my driveway here, because that Ferrari is one of these. It's a Matchbox. Um, But that's how we got involved. And so when I see what you're doing, and I look at what the costs must be, even if everybody's giving away their services, which nobody can afford to do. Look at the cost of it. Go, man. So you're definitely being a bit of a philanthropist, for the sake of jazz as well, and we appreciate
No,
that.
I don't think that's the case. This facility makes money on this camp.
Oh, I'm sure it does, but you understand what
So, I mean, not a lot. It
yeah,
is kind of labor of
yeah,
love compared
yeah,
to other camps they do. But, the camp is a business.
hmm
And it is the incredible business acumen of the people who run the facility that is a big part of why it works. If I
right.
tried to do this on my own, I I couldn't get to square one. I
Well, I
mean,
understand
I'm
that.
trying to organize all these people and find a place to do it and arrange food and
Well,
transportation and all that. No, it's part of the attraction of this place that everything is handled so beautifully and smoothly by the
right.
facility. So I don't want to take too much credit for that. I handle the artistic part of it. And,
But
they get all the other stuff done.
you had to think it up. You had to have the
Yeah.
vision for it. The magazine's the same way. I mean, Joe Perry is one of my partners who he was the publisher of Guitar Player magazine and Bass Player magazine and Keyboard magazine and Electronic Musician and all that for 8 to 10 years. And Raul and Valerie Amador, they've got six other digital format magazines. I think
Hmm.
it's six, and without them, I mean, I'm just a pretty face. So
Yeah.
so we're in trouble. All right, man. Well, listen, I really, really, really hope that it goes well.
Okay.
By the way, people that aren't familiar with your music, I mean, you're a great composer, man. The stuff that you do is fantastic. Your own playing is incredibly tasteful. Um, I don't know how you do it because I'm looking at the size of the bands, but we'll talk about that another time. I'm looking at those
Yeah,
bands and
that's
I'm
a
going,
whole nother story.
what are the economics of this? Because I have to think that way. I'm going, my God. I mean, how is that working? And the complexity of your music and the fact that it actually has movements, which is incredible. And you truly are a composer. And as Pat is, as Kurt is, as blah 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 blah. But um, it's impressive. It's very impressive what you do. So
Well, all you can really say is dream big and be willing to fail.
I can't do better than that. With that, I'll say Bob Baker with Joel Harrison for the Alternative Guitar Summit held in August 19th for 3.5 days in the Catskill Mountains. Please go to alternativeguitarsummit.com. Check it out. Um,
Oh, and don't forget, by the way, that August 24th in New York City, all the teachers are performing, except John Scofield, in New York City in a big marathon concert.
I did not know that. So, yes, please add that to your schedule. So, if you can't get to the summit, you got that event
Performance, yeah.
in the city. Thank you, my friend.
Thank you. Talk to
Bob
you
Baker,
soon.
Joel Harrison for Jazz Guitar Today. See you now. We'll talk soon. All right.
Okay.
Bye. Bye. Bye.